Guns, Germs, and Steel. Summary, Chapter 5, History's Haves and Have-Nots. Book, author, Jared Diamond. Overview. This chapter explores why different societies developed at vastly different rates following the last ice age, transitioning from nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyles to complex civilizations. It argues that the adoption and spread of food production, particularly the domestication of plants and animals, served as the fundamental catalyst for these profound disparities. The availability of suitable domesticable species and crucial geographic advantages profoundly influenced which societies flourished and which remained smaller, less complex groups. Ultimately, the chapter lays the groundwork for understanding the proximate factors of guns, germs, and steel, by tracing them back to the deep roots of agricultural success and its differential adoption worldwide. Lifestyle shift. Prior to around 11,000 BCE, all human societies globally subsisted exclusively as hunter-gatherers, relying on wild plants and animals for survival in small nomadic bands. The transition to food production, involving the domestication of specific plant and animal species, marked one of the most profound turning points in human history, fundamentally altering societal structures and human-environment interactions. This shift was not a sudden invention, but a gradual process of increasing reliance on a few cultivated species, likely occurring independently in several pristine hearths around the world over millennia. While foraging offered advantages like a varied diet and potentially less labor-intensive work under certain conditions, the long-term benefits of agriculture in terms of sustaining larger populations eventually outweighed its initial challenges. The factors that encouraged this transition included declining availability of wild foods, increased availability of domesticable wild species, technological advancements in food processing, and the development of technologies like storage. This fundamental change laid the foundation for sedentary living, population growth, and the accumulation of surplus resources, distinguishing agrarian societies from their foraging predecessors. Agricultural benefits. Food production allowed for the accumulation of food surpluses, enabling societies to feed non-food producing specialists like artisans, soldiers, and bureaucrats, thus fostering societal complexity. A sedentary lifestyle, a direct result of farming, permitted shorter birth intervals, leading to significantly higher population densities compared to mobile hunter-gatherer groups. Larger, denser populations facilitated the development of infectious diseases, as close living conditions provided ample opportunity for pathogens to jump from domesticated animals to humans, and then spread rapidly. The concentration of people and resources in fixed locations spurred technological innovation, including tools for agriculture, pottery for storage, and eventually metallurgy, as specialized individuals had time to invent and refine. Domestication of animals not only provided meat, milk, and fertilizer, but also supplied muscle power for plowing and transportation, dramatically increasing agricultural efficiency and human mobility. Ultimately, these combined advantages, surplus food, dense populations, specialized labor, technological advancement, and animal power, directly fueled the development of writing, political organization, and the complex institutions that constitute civilization. Domestication's role. The availability of suitable wild plant and animal species for domestication was a critical, unevenly distributed factor determining which regions could develop food production. Only a tiny fraction of wild species possesses the necessary characteristics for domestication, such as being amenable to human cultivation, providing substantial yields, or having a suitable social structure for animal husbandry. For plants, key traits included high yields, easy harvesting, self-pollination, quick growth, and storage capacity, with wild cereals and legumes being particularly crucial. For animals, crucial characteristics included a herbivorous diet, rapid growth rate, capacity for captive breeding, a non-aggressive temperament, and a social hierarchy that allowed for herd management by humans. Of the 14 large mammalian domesticates globally, only one, llama alpaca, was indigenous to the Americas and none to Australia, sharply limiting animal power and protein sources in those regions. The Fertile Crescent, in particular, was exceptionally endowed with a high diversity of highly productive wild cereals, like wheat and barley, and several of the major 5 domesticable mammals: goats, sheep, pigs, cattle, giving it a head start. Geographic diversity. Geographic factors played a pivotal role in the differential rates of food production adoption and spread, with environmental conditions either facilitating or hindering agricultural development. The east-west axis of Eurasia, with its similar latitudes and climates, allowed for the rapid spread of domesticated crops and animals, as they were already adapted to similar environmental conditions. In contrast, the north-south axis of the Americas and Africa presented significant barriers to diffusion, as domesticated species had to adapt to vastly different climates, rainfall patterns, and day lengths to move between latitudes. Topographical barriers like deserts, mountains, and oceans also impeded the spread of food production, isolating some regions and limiting their access to potential domesticates or agricultural innovations. Differences in local ecology and biodiversity meant that some regions simply did not possess indigenous wild species suitable for domestication, forcing them to adopt agriculture only through diffusion or not at all. The size and ecological diversity of a continent also contributed. Larger continents, like Eurasia, had a higher chance of containing a pristine hearth of domestication and more varied species to draw upon. Historical divergence. The combination of available domesticable species and favorable geographic conditions created a head start for certain regions, most notably the Fertile Crescent and parts of China, in developing food production. This early advantage in agriculture directly translated into earlier developments in population density, social complexity, technology, and political organization for societies in these regions. Regions lacking indigenous domesticates or facing severe geographic barriers to diffusion were either forced to adopt agriculture much later through contact with other groups or remained hunter-gatherers. The timing and pace of this agricultural revolution fundamentally determined the historical trajectories of different societies, creating the initial haves and have-nots that the book seeks to explain. This divergence set the stage for subsequent inequalities in power, technology, and disease resistance, ultimately explaining why Eurasians were able to dominate other continents in recent millennia, rather than vice versa. Therefore, the varied agricultural endowments across continents are presented as the ultimate explanation for the proximate factors, guns, germs, and steel that shaped global history.